butterflies as reversed kind of psychopomps for the dead to communicate to the living. So a psychopomp is an entity that kind of brings a newly dead soul into the dead, kind of like a guide, right? And I feel like butterflies are kind of reverse psychopomps because in my experience, I've noticed that butterflies tend to be kind of messengers for dead people that I sort of know to send messages to the living people that they know. You know, butterflies are oftentimes also a symbol of transformation. They go from caterpillar to butterfly. Even in the Teen Titans fucking show, that episode Transformation with Starfire, when she goes through her weird Tamaranian puberty thing, she becomes a chrysalis like a butterfly. And her sister Blackfire, every Tamaranian has a different kind of transformation thing, right? Blackfire, her fucking evil bitch sister, turns purple for a couple days, and that's it. But Starfire's transformation being her getting super ugly and then getting locked up in a chrysalis, and then she comes out and she's her pretty self again, implies kind of how special she is compared to other Tamaranians. So, like, butterfly's cocoon motif, like that, I mean, the caterpillar butterfly cocoon motif, that's common in fiction because transformation, it's kind of ugly, it's kind of hard, and you need to isolate for that. Anyway, so butterflies. The earliest recognizable painting of butterflies from Egypt, actually, in Nebuchadnezzar. He was a New Kingdom scribe and brain accountant. It was a specific type of butterfly. I forget the type, but it's really interesting that the first painting of a butterfly in history is from Egypt. And people don't really think of Egypt and think, oh, butterflies. But no, we have that too. Egypt always win. Egypt number one. Sorry, I'm just a nerd. But butterflies are also symbols for the soul. Okay, so Psyche is actually the Greek word for soul and mind, and it was used for butterfly. Not super commonly, but it was used in Aristotle's work on the history of animals in like 384 BC-ish. And the phrase that it's used in is like, Yunonte dahaimen kalumene, suke ekton tampon, hai yunonte epiton kulon, I don't know how to read Greek. But Shukai. So Psyche, Shukai, like this kind of same word root. And there's this really famous kind of Greco-Roman myth, Eros and Psyche. And it's one of my favorite myths, and it isn't actually a Greek myth, it's a Roman myth from this picaresque tale, The Golden Ass. And picaresque basically means like a loosely connected episodic fiction, following a protagonist who gets into a lot of trouble. And I guess a modern picaresque kind of media thing, it would actually kind of be SpongeBob, I think. Because SpongeBob SquarePants is like, the episodes have no continuity, they're really episodic, can be watched separately, and they're always like super funny and humorous. And that's another thing with picaresque novels, that the protagonist is always getting himself into trouble, always kind of doing stupid things, and SpongeBob does a lot of really dumb things, low-key. But the Eros and Psyche myth in The Golden Ass, it's told from an old woman within the story, so so within the Golden Ass universe, it's a form of oral tradition. And this could potentially, maybe, I'm not saying completely sure, yeah, but I'm saying it's possible, because anything's fucking possible, right? This could have been an oral tradition from Roman times that maybe traveled from the Greek times due to the Greek etymology of Psyche. You know, we have so little record of ancient times, it's possible that maybe this was an actual Greek myth that got erased, but luckily somehow got preserved in the Golden Ass. And I'm not really setting it forth, but I'm just putting it out there so others can ponder it, think about it, and we can all have intelligent discourse in my comments about it, right? But, story of Eros and Psyche, haven't read in a while. Eros is love. Eros is the god of love. Cupid, right? It's actually mentioned as Cupid in the Eros and Psyche tale, which is annoying because, like, Eros starts off in, like, the Homeric, kind of times as this, he's this virile, powerful god, one of the first gods. He's a primordial god, but the primordial god is love, and then he gets, like, you know, turned into a fucking insipid baby that just, like, shoots arrows at people, which is pretty stupid. I guess, unfortunately, for everyone, times he does become Cupid. He does devolve into Cupid, and it's kind of insane because the devolution of Eros, some can argue that that is kind of like the disintegration or the cheapening of love, right? Like, love starting off as this primordial, powerful entity, and then becoming a fucking naked baby shooting arrows. Eros to Cupid, that's one of the worst fucking blowdowns ever. Anyways, Psyche is the most beautiful and the youngest of her sisters, and her parents accidentally, they fucking marry her off to, I don't know the myth well, I'm not gonna tell the whole thing, I'm good. But basically the point of Eros and Psyche overall, Psyche goes through all these trials and tribulations to get to Eros, and, yeah, whatever, I'm not gonna go into this. Anyways, another thing about butterflies. Dennis Diderot's Encyclopedia, which was published between like 751 and like 722. This is like this work is famous for representing the thought of the Enlightenment. He actually cites butterflies as a symbol for the soul, and that's not surprising because all the way back in like 311 BC, we have we have Aristotle using the word for soul for butterfly basically in a different form. But hey, I'm just saying it got preserved. And by the time of the Enlightenment, people are still doing the whole butterflies as a soul thing. And in Japan, they're also seen as a personification of a person's soul, according to the work of Koizumi Yakumo, basically the first weeb. He was born Lafcadio Hearn. He was an Irish, Greek, Japanese writer, translator, and teacher. He basically introduced the culture and literature of Japan to the West. Koizumi Yakumo is his Japanese name. He married a Japanese lady. But yeah, it's basically the first weeaboo. But from the first weeaboo, we know that the Japanese see the personification of a person's soul as the butterfly as well. And in Aztec culture, butterflies are considered to be reincarnations for the souls of dead warriors. And butterflies actually evolved from moths. Moths are definitely prehistoric and stuff. Moths are the older kind of creature, and butterflies evolved from them. And in my family, my grandpa's associated with moths because when they got the news that he died, there's a huge fucking moth going around. And to this day, I see moths and I think of my Lolo. I think of my Filipino grandpa that I never got to meet them because I never kill moths. Once I killed, my family got really fucking mad, and my uncle was like, "Oh, you killed Lolo," and I was just like, "Shit, sorry, I wasn't thinking. I got scared." But moths are definitely associated with death, while butterflies more often they kind of represent the soul and life. And I feel like moths as a symbol of death, like before a big death happens in the family, usually there's a big moth. That's a Filipino kind of superstition. Moths kind of bring the living to the death realm. Well, butterflies, they bring the dead to the living realm to say hello to their relatives. So it's like they're kind of like, I don't know, it's like how some people say Gengar is like Clefairy shadow, something like that, or Clefable shadow. It's like they're kind of two sides of the same coin, like the light side and the dark side. The moth is the dark side, the butterflies is the light side. And what's interesting is that, like, in my actual personal experience, I have a lot of experience as butterflies coming back as people. So, someone in my extended family who I was unfortunately not able to meet loved butterflies, and she always told her family that she would come back as a butterfly. And again, I never knew her in life. I never got to meet her, unfortunately. But I got very close with the people who were closely related to her. I'm very close with her cousin. I was very close to her daughter. We fell out kind of painfully, and we're kind of okay now. I really pray that we can be okay again someday because it was really hard. I love her, and yeah, I love her. Anyways, she literally told her family she would come back as a butterfly. Like, when I die, I'm going to come back as a butterfly. And butterflies, oftentimes, they come and visit her family. And her best friend slash cousin, who's also my best friend, told me so many stories about, like, one time this big, huge blue butterfly came to her and landed on her and, like, wouldn't leave. And it actually happened to me recently once, which is interesting. I was walking out of my house with some money because I was going to dedicate a mass at church to my uncle's father in Texas who just passed away. And I randomly found out, I was like, should I have a mass dedicated to the daughter of this woman who passed? This woman that I'm talking about that passed away before I got to me. I was like, should I have a mass dedicated for her daughter? I feel like she might be going through a bit of a hard time right now. And in that exact moment, a fucking huge tiger butterfly appears right in front of me and disappears before I could even snap a picture for my best friend, for our shared best friend, with the woman who passed away. And then clearly I was like, okay, loud and clear. So I got a mass dedication for her daughter. And I get mass dedications often for the dead, and many in my extended family that is not Catholic because people need to be prayed for. And I think that Catholics do have systematic, nice prayers that I think that a lot of the other denominations unfortunately lack. But that's my little butterfly story, where butterflies do represent a soul that I kind of know. And the person that passed away, that had the Danza Azteca, there were a lot of dragons and butterflies in the ceremony. And apparently orange monarch butterflies were really important to him, according to his friends, his college friends in life that I attended the ceremony with. My best friend was his really good college friend, right? So this is another person who I didn't know in life, but we kind of share a mutual friend, right? And these butterflies, they popped up multiple times, and there's one gray butterfly with an orange notch on the end of her wing, and it truly stuck out to me. That's a gray hair, which is common in Alabama. And coincidentally, Alabama is where my other butterfly-associated soul that I didn't meet, that's where her daughter lived for many, many years. And I stayed with her daughter in Alabama for a little bit on one spring break trip I took down south. I love Alabama. I might go back there. I will go back there, but I might go back there to live. Who knows? But look, as we pulled up to my friend's house in LA, friend of the Danza Azteca person, we took a different route. And we turned by a mural that had La Virgen de Guadalupe, San Judas Tadeo, and a monarch butterfly. She almost cried. So butterflies, I feel like they're very conducive to people from the other side trying to send messages to their loved ones. So yeah, butterflies, I feel like, are definitely reversed psychopomps. They're to send messages to the living from the dead, and I guess moths take the living into the dead.